Hi everyone, it's Karen, and I'm just going to start my next project for AngeldreamCraftsKim on Etsy, and I will put links to the shop in the description box below, and also links to the other designers that are currently designing for Kim and making beautiful things with products from her store. And this is going to be something different for me. I generally do just a reveal of what I've created, and I've been inspired by Roseanne, one of our designers, and her, of course, a link to her YouTube channel is in the description box below, as she is a designer for AngeldreamCraftsKim. And I just am so inspired by her. She is such a talented designer, and she does these sort of crafting and showing you exactly how she puts things together, and I find that very challenging, so I decided to challenge myself and see how I do. So I'm going to start with part 1 today, and this is going to be my second design team project for the month of July, and then I'm going to continue it through the month of August with the other products the other products from the store that I received. And so what I did was I took a large square doily. Kim has had similar ones in the shop. This one I happen to have from a thrift store find, and I cut it in half so it's exactly 2 pieces, and I'm going to fold that in half, and that is going to be the front cover of this doily and lace book that I'm going to put together. And then inside are going to be pages that are actually doilies. So I've got 4 doilies here. I will put them together to make the page so it's nice and thick. This will be the front, this will be the back part of the page. They aren't identical. They're all a little bit different, but they fit together fairly well. And that's all that's important. They fit well between the front and back covers, which is that larger square doily. And then the points meet here on the edges, and this is where I will put, I think I'm planning to put some ribbons through here to hold the book together. I haven't exactly decided on the closure yet, so we'll get to that when the time comes. And I am going to do some sewing. I'm going to sew the front cover together so that the front and the back of it here, the 2 pieces are attached together. And I'm going to put some pockets in this book as well, because I think that I envision it as a keepsake kind of book. So not only can you look at it and look at the pretty pages, but there will be pockets created so that you can put items inside that you might want to tuck inside for keepsakes, things as well. So that's what I've envisioned for this book, and we'll see how it all comes together. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to use products, of course, and do this using the products from Kim's shop. So I wanted to do the front cover, and I don't always start with the front cover because again, sometimes that vision comes to me later, but I was playing with it and I did come up with something that I really liked, and so I'm going to put that together. And I think I am going to make the front and back pockets. I'm just sitting here thinking as I'm talking, so I will end up sewing this down the side and across the bottom and making this a pocket so that you'll be able to put things inside here right you know, from the very first page. You'll be able to use it as a pocket. And I'm going to use this. I've got these gorgeous digital downloads from Shabbydabbydoodah, and I think they're called Beauties or Vintage Beauties, something like that. They're children photos. Most of them are black and white. Some have a bit of color on them. This is the one I've chosen for the front page. And then what I'm just going to show you is how I am going to put this together, and then I'll go and do a little bit of sewing on it so that I can finish putting it together, because as I mentioned, I want to make that pocket on the front. But my sewing machine is in a totally different room. My craft space is really tiny, and so I'm just thankful I have a spot where I can have my sewing machine and I can go and use it, but I certainly cannot do any video taping there. So this gorgeous pink dangle trim was in my design team package, and I want to use that, and I want to use it partly as a dangle, partly as a frame for around this photo. So that is what I'm going to put there. And I will back this photo with a bit of felt, and when I come back I'll have that done as well, so I can show you what that looks like. And even though I'm using, you know, I printed this just on paper because I like to use a combination of papers, laces, and trims and doilies all together because it is very expensive to print on fabric. I add the felt on the back just to give it a little bit more dimension. This was part of an applique that was in my design team package, and there was, I think, 4 pieces, and I used 2 on my last design team project, and so these 2 I'm going to use on the front cover here. I have some doilies. These, I believe, are from a thrift store, fine, but Kim has doily packs in the store. If she doesn't have them now, I'm sure she'll be getting them in. And so I'm going to add the doilies in behind the flowers, I think is how I'd like to do it, just to give them a little bit more dimension. I'm just going to scoot her up a little bit more so that she's not completely lost in behind all that stuff. This is the beautiful grapevine and grape leaves. It's been quite badly, well, cut up. I don't know if it's badly, because it's always fun to cut up your laces and trims. So I'm just going to finish taking the scallop off of here because it's just a little piece left, and I certainly can use that. It's a beautiful scallop. It just is not going to work for where I want to put this on this project. I just would like to have this at the top here. Let's see, how can I best position it? And let's see, make sure I have the right side. Okay, so let's take this off here, and so this will go across the top this way. And I just want to make sure I position it so that these grapes kind of look like they're hanging down over her, but not like on top or right on top her head or anything. And then just maybe pull them out a bit now that I've put the doily back on. I don't mind if the doily kind of hangs over the edge this way or up above, because I think that still looks really pretty. And I think this looks good here. So we'll just cut that piece off and we can use that somewhere else. And after I get the pocket sewn, then I can of course attach that in place. What I often do while I'm creating is I pin some things in place so that I remember where I've put things. And I find this really helpful when I'm creating, because I do find it's a process of putting things on and then sometimes changing my mind. And then also when I get to the sewing machine, I can lift pins off, sew things, and then pin things back on right away. And it keeps my project so that I'm not redoing the whole project because I can't remember where I put things in the first place. And sometimes that happens anyway, because sometimes I change my mind. But right now, I'm liking how this looks. I think I'm going to end this piece right here. I don't want it going all the way up the side of the page. I just want it partially there. Right, let's just slide her down. She's creeping up towards the grapes. We don't want her quite that high. Get this coming around the corner here. Get my doily back on and the applique back on. And I think that's good. And I'm liking how that's looking. Okay, so this I can use within the book somewhere, and this piece as well, a little scallop piece from the top. I have some doily that I had cut apart, and I have these pieces, and I'm going to use them as part of my layering pieces as well, just again to give more dimension, especially to the front cover. They can, you know, they add a lot. I love the beige coloring and the pink and the sort of this beigey color and the white together. I think it looks really nice. And this trim is sort of not a true white trim either. So again, another almost a bit of a creamy color to it. So another contrast to the page. And I think I'm going to add one here just to add a little bit more into there. I think I only had 2 of these doilies left, so that's the 2. And then in the center, I've still got 2 of these beautiful blings from Kim's shop, so those are going to go in the centers. I am going to think about the closure as well, and if I decide I want to do anything, this is open here for me to add something in for the closure. And that's still something I'm in the process of thinking about, so not entirely sure yet how that's going to come, how that's going to look. But there is the start. Just standing up so I can have a look down on it, because things look different when you look from a sitting position to when you go to a standing position. And so it's always a good idea to look at things from different angles to see if it's what you like. And I'm liking how that looks, and I'm going to think about it some more. I'm going to do some sewing on the pocket, and then I'm going to come back and we can do a bit of gluing and putting things in place. And I also put the picture on a piece of felt, and I'll show you what that looks like, and I'll be back. Hi everyone, I'm back, and I've done some sewing on the book, and I've put in the ties as well, or I started to. So you can see here that I've sewn the one side on the front to join those 2 pieces together, and I decided to sew the top as well. I decided that a pocket right in the front cover might not be the best idea, so what I'm going to do is put a pocket on the inside of the front cover, and then the doilies are also pockets, and then there's a pocket in the back. So that way there'll be lots of room still. You can see I've sewn the doilies here, down the side, and across the bottom. But I've left the opening at the top so that you could tuck things inside. And once they're all finished and everything, they'll be nice and sturdy enough that you'll be able to put things inside. Right now it's soft and floppy, so it may not think that it's going to work, but it will. And then the back cover, I sewed the same as the front. I did the bottom and the sides, and then I left the top open on this one, so there'll be a nice big pocket on the back cover, which I think when it's lying down it will look nicer that way. So that's what I decided when I went to the sewing machine. And then I decided also on the closure, and I chose this frayed chiffon ribbon, and I did purchase this. This is from my stash, but Kim does have ribbons and laces in her shop that would work. And you can see I've put it on a large needle, and I'm just threading it through the cover and through the doilies and just pulling that through. And if you go directly through the holes in the doilies, then it pulls through fairly easily. And then just need to line it up to decide where to put it through at the back cover, and go through some holes there from that doily, and a little bit of a tug to get it through there, and there we have it. And so I've done that type of closure on a soft book before, and it's quite nice. I'm just knotting it once right now just to get things going. I'll decide after I get the pages done. I may have to loosen the knots a bit, and then I can decide exactly how I'm going to finish that. But you can see here that it allows you to be able to flip through the book, and the pages are all stay nicely together, and then you get the pretty ribbons running down the side of the page, which I'll add other things attached to them as well. I haven't decided exactly what. The next thing I want to do is to show you how I put the felt on the back of that digital print that I did. And I attached it at the top with some glue, and then when I laid everything out on the front, I just attached everything to that digital print with just little dots of hot glue so that I can pull it right off now. I could show you the book that I put together, and now I can start putting it onto the book. So I'm just going to add some more hot glue, and I use just a small amount to attach that felt onto the back of the digital paper print that I did. And this makes it feel soft to the touch. When you touch it, it kind of feels spongy on the front of the cover, and so I like that feeling and that texture that it gives it, and it's not just flat to the page. So that's, and it's a way of using your paper digital prints on your fabric and lace books without the cost of printing them onto fabric. And not all printers easily print onto fabric either, so it can become a real deterrent to wanting to do one of these projects. So now I've laid it back down on top of the book, and you can see I did make some changes. Of course, can never stay with the original plan. I did stay with the grape and leaves across the top. I added in some of Kim's rosy flowery trim there in the bottom left hand corner and to the side of the image on the right, just to finish off the edge of the image there so that there wasn't any of the paper edge showing. And I moved things after I added those. Then I didn't like exactly how I had the appliques on the front, so I ended up moving the appliques. The beige doilies, I believe, are still in the same spot. I just decided to move the doilies around, or move the appliques, which that will be coming up. And I wanted that pink dangle lace to really hang over the edge of where the ribbons are tied as well. So I pulled it back so that it does stick out right on down the left hand side of the book and peeks out. It ends up peeking out behind the appliques and behind the doily a bit on that left hand side, which I preferred in the end. And I also decided I pulled everything down from the top a bit, and there I'm just curving the top corner because I didn't like how squared off it looked. To my eye, that didn't look quite right, so I just curving it with my scissors. And I did the same thing in the bottom right hand corner as well. I may have already shown you that. I'm doing a voiceover now on it, so the house was just too noisy and there was too much background noise when I was putting this all together, so we're going with a voiceover, and I hope it all works out. So just adjusting it now on the front. It of course is all adhered to the actual photo, but it needs to be put in place on the front of the cover. And that's what I'm doing now, is just adjusting things and making sure that everything is where I want it before I get my glue gun out and start actually gluing things in place. And so, as you can see, I've made the top show a little bit more, moved everything down, moved the grape and leaf lace down a bit so that those scallops at the top of that doily on the front cover sort of stick out a little bit more, defined a little bit more. Because as it was looking, there was the one sticking out and the one behind the beige doily was kind of hidden, and the balance wasn't there for me. So this way now it's sticking out a little bit above that beige doily on the left there, and then above the grape leaves and grapes there. Here I'm just adjusting that little rose or floral little piece of lace. I've cut it out like an applique, but it's part of a lace that was in Kim's shop, and I'm just putting a little bit of glue along the edge there. And I think I realized that my glue gun had accidentally become unplugged, and so I had to wait for it to start heating up. So glue gun back in order, and we're ready to go. And so let's get this topper, basically is what it's turned out to be, glued onto the top of my little doily book here. So still seem, I guess part of my process is to continue to fiddle and fiddle, which is what I'm doing. I think I'm waiting for that hot glue gun to heat up. So I just looking at things and removing little bits here and there that I don't like how they look. Some of the loops on the top of the lace don't lay in quite the right spot, so I just take some of them off. It's all to your eye, however it looks to you. Everyone is going to see things a little differently, and there's no right or wrong. It's just how it looks to you when you're creating it, and if something doesn't look quite right, then snip it off. So I think my glue gun finally is warmed up, and I am putting the appliques back in place. And again, I did mention that I had changed my mind about how I wanted to put the appliques on. And part of the reason of that is, you will see coming up, I found some beautiful flowers from Kim's shop in my stash that I just wanted to use. They're so pretty. They were a lovely shade of pink. They were sort of more the pink of the chiffon ribbon that I decided to use for the binding. I think I called it a closure earlier, but I meant binding. And so I decided to put those on over top of the beige doilies, and then to put the appliques together on the left hand side. So that was a process that came about waiting for the glue gun to heat up, and those kind of things happen. I also decided I wanted to put some little bit of bling and pearls, flat backs, up along the grapevine leaves, as there is some bling throughout the cover, but sort of that top corner there on the right hand side is void of any of the blings and pearls that are made their way onto the page. And so I've dug out some out of my stash. They're 5mm little single flat back rhinestones and pearls. I love hand setting pearls, rhinestones onto projects that I make. That's part of the detail of things that I love to do. So that is something that I will be putting on to the lace as well. And the flowers from Kim's shop with the pearl stamens and the beautiful pearl and rhinestone centers that I've put in the top left-hand corner and in the bottom right-hand corner are just, they're so beautiful and so dimensional. And I'm sure she still has some in her shop. She had them in different colors, not sure what she's got left, but they're worth checking out because they're absolutely gorgeous. The white ones are a combination of satin with the pearls and the stamens, and the pinky colored ones are more of a organza with the pearls and rhinestones. So there we start the gluing process. So what I've done is I've just flipped up the lace and doilies on the bottom, and I've started gluing down that digital image. Now the front page is quite thick because remember I've sewn two pieces together, but I do check continually to make sure that my glue isn't seeping through and attaching the front page to the first doily page, because that is not something I want to happen. I also am not heavy-handed with my glue gun, so I just use what I need to attach things. That way too the project isn't all stiff and hard with glue. I have some fabric books still in my possession that I've made years ago, and they're still beautiful, and I used hot glue to create them. So a little bit more glue on the back of the digital print itself to make sure that it's staying down and doesn't lift up, particularly from the middle of the page. That would be, or of the book, because that would be a disaster really not to have that in place. And just rearranging the laces to decide. At this point you have to decide which one you want on top and which one you want underneath, and so just making those decisions as you go, and applying a bit of glue here and there and to make sure that things stay in place. This little doily piece in the corner, I'm putting underneath the pink lace just to add more layers and more texture is I'm just going to put a bit of glue on it and then just get it where I want it and then just squeeze it a bit so that it gathers a little bit and makes almost like a little skirt coming out the bottom there, and it looks really pretty. Just catching a little loose flat back pearl there that it had made itself onto the image. Just attaching in behind here, making sure the image is down well, and then attaching the rest of the little floral, the rosy piece on there, and then flipping the top back and gluing the rest of the image in place. And the felt, of course, helps it to glue very nicely to the fabric as well, because it's sort of like fabric to fabric gluing. You certainly could use a fabric glue if you want to. I am a real fan of hot glue. I think that if you use it properly, it is your best friend. So I'm all about the hot glue. I do a lot of hand sewing as well, so I use it in combination with different methods. But I have to say, I do not even own fabric glue. The only other glue I use on fabric sometimes is my art glitter glue, and that's in particular applications, certainly not like this in a large application. I would never use it. It would be too slow of a process, because even though it adheres quickly, not quick enough. And that's one thing I really like about the hot glue, is that you get things in place quickly. But if you do make a mistake, you can reheat with your glue gun. You use your glue gun and you reheat the glue, and it comes loose, and then you can put it back where you need to. So here I'm actually using the tip of the glue gun to not only apply the glue, but I was also pushing the pink lace in place as well, so it avoids my fingers getting burnt. And I do that quite often as well, especially when it's something holey like this. Here I made a decision that I wanted the grape leaf lace under the pink lace, and again, these are just as you go. You need to make these decisions, and that's what I decided. I like the pink coming out between the holes of that beige doily, and that's why I went with the pink on top. And so that's in place. You can see that pink lace sticks out nicely on the left hand side there where the ribbons are, and I really like that. A little bit of glue along the top of that grape leaf and grape lace to put it in place there along the top. And I think that topper is in place, and I'm happy with that. And now we can add the appliques, and we can add the florals back in place and glue those in place, and then move on to putting final touches with the bling on. So she's come together quite quickly, and a lot of that is sort of the stages that you go through. I mean, she took a few hours to actually put her all together and to go to the sewing machine and that kind of thing. And I did take a break and help load groceries into the fridge that my husband had gone and got the groceries, and also stopped and heated up some soup for lunch. So it turned out to be an all-day project. My husband's on dinner duty tonight, so I do not have to do that. So that gave me a good chance today to be able to do this project and get this done. So there's those gorgeous flowers I was talking about, with the beautiful satin and the pearls and the stamens that are sort of 3D. They're very dimensional and they're just gorgeous. And I just had to use the last of them up on this beautiful, beautiful book that I'm putting together here. I just felt like they all fit really well with the colors, and it was a great opportunity to be able to use them now. So she's finally come together, and we're at the final stage here of putting on the blings I talked about. So I just moved the camera in so I can just show you how I do that. I like to apply just a tiny bit of the hot glue and then just hand set them in. I usually do what I'm doing right now, and that's do a sort of a dry run of putting them in place to see what I like. I have not really gotten to the point where I'm very good at just going straight in to applying them, because sometimes I just don't like how they look when I first start, and I don't want to be picking them off and reapplying them. So I fiddle with them, which is something that I do a lot of in my creative process, is fiddling, because it just gives me that opportunity to have a look at how it's going to look, and do I like it? And then if I do, I go ahead and get out the hot glue gun and we get gluing. So you can see that I choose to do the gluing very slowly. I find the rhinestones and the pearls set better if you put them on when the glue is very hot. So if you put enough down for 2, by the time you get to the second one, the glue is cooling too much and they don't stay stuck on very well. So I do 1 little dab of glue and then I hand set. I have devices that I can use to put them on with, but I do find that doing them by hand, if they're 5 millimeters or bigger, I have no problem in doing them by hand. This one, unfortunately, was crooked to my eye, which this is, a little bit of my obnoxious OCD coming out, because I should have just left it alone. But anyway, I fiddled with it. Again, there I am, fiddling to get it to lay exactly the way I wanted. So just holding it in place while the glue cooled so that it stayed in the right position. And so what I ended up doing was going across the top of each of the grapes and the leaves and applied either 2 rhinestones and a pearl, or 2 pearls and a rhinestone. So that was the configuration I came up with that I really liked. So this configuration above the leaves is a pearl, a rhinestone, and a pearl. And as I said, these are all about 5 millimeters. So they're not real big, but they do add that little punch of sparkle there across the top of the page, which I felt was needed. And really easy to add them to the laces. And with the hot glue, I never have a problem. And I just go back and there was a glue strand there, and then the final one here, and I actually end up going in behind the doily. There's one final little leaf, grape leaf, that's behind that beige doily, and I left the doily loose so that you could peek behind. You would still be able to look behind there. That is something that I like to do. I don't like gluing every single thing down. So I did go in behind, you'll see with the next one, in behind that beige doily where you can lift it up, see, and I think I clipped off that little pink loop. Yes, I did, because I didn't really like that. And then I added the rhinestones, and not sure what I'm clipping there. It's just off camera. Must be something else that caught my eye that I didn't care for. And then I add again a pearl, a rhinestone, and a pearl there above that leaf combination there. And some people may leave that off. That might be, you might think that's wasteful because it's behind and who sees it. It's just me. Because I left that loose and I want it loose so that people can lift that up and peek in behind and see behind there, I wanted it completely finished. And that's just details that goes along with me and how I create. And so there, that top piece is all finished. And I like that little bit of sparkle that's added. I add a little bit of glue in the corner there to make it stick down to in the top left-hand corner. But you still are able to lift it up and peek underneath and see the different laces. That's another thing I really like to do, is to make sure you see all the layers. Just keep building on the layers, but never cover anything up completely. Always still be able to see it. Now, this little girl in this photo is looking up, and I just felt there had to be something up there that she was looking at. So I created a little beaded butterfly. You know that this is something that I actually have quite a number of views on my channel on that beaded butterfly tutorial that I did years ago now, and I still make them. I still love making them and giving them away, and so I created one here out of the little pearly beads and a little pearly center on it, and this little silver wire for the antennae, and I put that at the top of the page so that she is actually looking up at something. Decided to attach that little bundle of grapes down because the other two above her head on either side are attached down, and I didn't want that one flapping around on its own, so that was why I attached it down. And I think then I just spend a little bit of time checking, because a lot of the stuff when I glue it down initially, I glue it only in the center and I wait to decide how exactly it's all come together. And then what I will do is go back and of course I forgot I had zoomed in, so that's why you can't see what I'm doing there. I'm just finishing up putting in little dabs of glue behind the petals on the applique, because they're quite heavy, they're quite a thick applique, and I didn't want them I don't mind them a bit loose, but didn't want them completely flopping away from the front page. And I think shortly here, hopefully, I zoom back out and I show you the final reveal. So there she is. Zoom back out, and front cover completed. Beautiful pink lace, appliques, flowers, the grapevine and grape lace, the little floral rosy type lace, the beautiful heart blings, all from Kim's shop. So be sure to head over to AngeldreamCraftsKim on Etsy and get some of these goodies for yourself. Check out the designers, get more inspiration. Come back next month and see how the rest of this book comes together. And I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.